Good evening or good afternoon. Today we're looking at a chart of MSTR here. And this is the reason that I want to go over technical analysis and then some fundamental workings of MSTR and what is happening with Bitcoin and MSTY, which is the ETF here. So let's take the first leg here first. And this is a chart that has dropped from 457 to now 155. And going much more to the sideways rather in a bottoming out fashion. It made a low here at 155, and yet it has to make another low. It may form a W like bottom here, but that is the nature of this chart here, which was traveling into a descending channel and following the Bitcoin. This is the daily chart, which let's take a look at a closer look here at 1 hourly chart. And as you can see, this downfall trend has now turned into a sideways trend. So it is a stabilizing here at this point and making some progress, we would call it. So how, if you came here, let's go talk about what is happening here. What they are doing is here now, they're shoring up bit MSTR by issuing more um, common stock and getting more cash reserve than before. So now the reserve for the dividends are about 2.1 billion, and we're going to go and look into it in a minute. These dividends are here. This is the chart. This is the analysis. The numbers are here. The price was 164. Market cap is now 550 billion here, and the amount of Bitcoin reserves are 59. And these things are the reserves are is 2.1 billion now. They were 1.4 for the dividends that they have to pay for the preferred stock, and the dividend is very low compared to. I mean, the indebtedness is only 8.2 billion dollars on it, yet they own, as of today, about 671 bitcoins, which is given right here. So they're owning about 667,000 bitcoin. Maybe you may not be able to see this on the screen, the USD reserves and the Bitcoin reserves, but that is what they are doing right now. So they owe about 671,000 bitcoins total. The net value on is 1.09, which is the markup here is a premium, and it has several things that typically is happening here. So let's get into one of these things here. The MSTR is financing its Bitcoin strategy primarily through issuing equity, common stock, and preferred stock. And they're raising cash reserves, not just buying Bitcoins, especially recently to cover dividends and debt among market pressure and MCI concern. Now they are included into NASDAQ. And how what they are offering: number one, they have equity offerings. The strategy sells. They're selling new shares of common stock, MSTR, and preferred stock like STRF, STRK, and STRD to generate cash. So this company is generating a lot of cash by selling debt in common stock. Common stock is not debt, but preferred is looks like a debt. The debt they have also is also lower cost, perpetual preferred stock and convertible bonds to fund the purchases, and they're paying dividends on it. And then they have $2.1 billion reserves for the dividends, which will cover 2 or 3 years now, more than that. Cash reserves. Recently, they have focused on building a large USD cash reserve to pay preferred dividends and service debt rather than buying the Bitcoin immediately. And so the purchases have kind of stopped recently. Cash reserve bill in early November, what they did in December, they established 1.44 billion cash reserve, and now they outgrow that and they grew that to 2.2, which is very good, and it should be very reassuring to all the critics who are in Bitcoin. And what is the shift now? What exactly is happening? So the market pressure is declining MSTR stock, and volatility in Bitcoin is leading to the concern that it is not solvable, meeting preferred that they will not be able to meet their preferred stock dividends, which is not true, because now they have a huge fund that is backing them. And the MSI index concern, potential exclusion from MSI index has created urgency to financials. So they are very conscious about that they don't get kicked out from MSI index or NASDAQ. In a sense, the strategy is using financial instruments like the stock sales to create liquidity cash to support his overall Bitcoin strategy and operations that they are involved in. So the technicalities are, the fundamentals are given here. These are the technicalities. The stock is sitting there at this sideways motion, and probably it will create this kind of a base. And amid all of these concerns, which are addressed, it will start moving up higher as soon as Bitcoin does. So that is where. Here we are looking at a chart of BTC, which is Bitcoin futures here, which is exactly mirrors the Bitcoin. Bitcoin was high up here, 126,000 in October, and it fell down here through this sell-off that occurred here and made a low here on exactly 11/21, a month ago. So now it has tried to get up here and then started moving here sideways. It did not cross this line, and we're going to come up and focus on 1 hourly chart. And as you can see, this is a sideways motion. Is Bitcoin is traveling in this channel sideways. It's not descending. It's not going down. It made a low of 82,000 here on November 21st. And after that, it has given a lot of opportunities. So it's carving out a base, which is technical base. And technically, Bitcoin will be able to launch from here to the upside. Whenever this consolidation pattern takes place, that means the buyers and sellers are equivalent and they cannot overpower each other. And once in a while, what will happen here, there will be more buyers rather than sellers. And then this base becomes a support. And then the typical pattern here in the chart pattern that it will start striking here. It needs to go back up here to about 104 to complete the long-term trend, which is in Bitcoin since several years. So it started, the whole process started here in 23, October of 23, and Bitcoin hit an all-time high of 126,000. We're looking at a weekly chart of Bitcoin, and this is the drop that we are in right now, sideways. It needs to get back up to this trend line. In relation to that, we have MSTR, which we covered here. MSTR is MSTR also has a similar chart, which we covered just now, but weekly, and it is also consolidating here. In regards to this, let's talk about MSTY. And MSTY has gone through it has gone through the same pattern here and is moving sideways here, even lowering a little bit. It went through a stock split of 5:1, and if you have 100 shares, they will be reduced to 25. So basically, it has no other meaning on it but to increase the share price, or it looks good on paper. This is what the stock split was, and they have also converted their dividends to monthly, from monthly to daily. But the pattern of this whole thing is still questionable. And let's take a look at it here on a daily, on a 1 hourly chart. So this pattern is again sideways motion here, making lows here. 30 low was the low, and it made a low here on December 1st, and now recently 30.66. But remember, this is a 5:1. So the number of shares, it was $6 stock or $5 stock, $7 stock. And now it has a bigger picture because the shares are consolidated and you own less number of shares. But the dividends have not decreased, and they are giving the same amount of dividends here, almost 59 cents, and this week, and the dividend was on 210, 218, 39 cents. And so Misty is still in progress, is work in progress. The NAV deterioration in Misty is not because of the call ETF. It is not because of that. It has to do with the deterioration in the stock value. So if you understand that, I think there is some NAV deterioration in MSTY, but it is not wholly from it the way it is a yield product, yield max product. It has to do with the NAV value of MSTR, and then again it goes back to the end value of Bitcoin, which we just covered.